Guys, thanks for coming tonight. My name is Ross Jones. I'm with To the Top Design. This is the Nashville SEO and Internet Marketing Meetup Group. Tonight we're going to be talking about Google Rich Snippets and specifically their authorship, author highlighting capabilities. I appreciate you guys going around the room and telling me a little bit about yourselves. Let me give you a little bit of my background. 6 months before Google.com was registered as a domain, I was already specializing in search engine optimization. The year was 1997. Been doing this quite a while. I currently have 81 active websites. Some of them are not very active, but I do have those websites up there. Pretty much use those for all different types of things over the last 15 or so years. Today they're mostly a test bed for me to try to understand what Google and other search engines and other listing services like, so that we don't have to be testing out things on client website. It's not my primary purpose, but those 81 websites last month generated a little over $3,100 of income. Some of you guys do AdSense or affiliate marketing. Those are the primary things that I do with some of those websites. So that's some nice on the side money that my wife and my kids and I are very happy to keep getting every month. So some of the websites are doing pretty well. I am an adjunct professor at the Art Institute of Tennessee here in Nashville. We have a 4-year web design program there, and I teach the seniors in the web design program an internet marketing class. And I'm happy to say that I also run this group. The Nashville SEO and Internet Marketing Group now has 526 members in the group. That's fantastic. I really appreciate this. I will do my best to keep providing useful content and a little bit of entertainment on the last Thursday night of every month for you. And then finally, in my spare time, I run a little company. We're a small agency, To the Top Web Design and Promotion. We're full service web design, but honestly our niche is organic search engine optimization and free unpaid listings. We do a little bit of everything, but we know what we're best at, and we try to help people where it's most effective. So some of you guys were here last month in this room. Last month's meetup group, we talked about an SEO, a large-scale SEO audit of Dr. Jeff Cornwall's website. Dr. Cornwall thought he was going to be here tonight, but he's one of our hosts, but he couldn't make it. His website experienced a dramatic drop in organic traffic last year when his website was redesigned by somebody else. He lost 80% of his organic search engine traffic pretty much overnight, and they didn't know why. And so we spent our last monthly get-together talking about that situation. We get together the last Thursday night of every month, and as long as Belmont will keep providing this wonderful facility, we'll keep coming here. We will not, however, be having a last Thursday night in December meeting. So if you guys will, if you want to email me or shoot me any suggestions for topics that we might be going to talk about in January, the next meeting will be here in this room on January 31st at 6:30. Look forward to seeing you guys. So, how many of you were here last month for the audit of Dr. Jeff Cornwall's site? One of the final recommendations that we made to implement in his website was what we referred to as authorship or author highlighting. And that's the primary topic of what we're talking about tonight. Some quotes that I had pulled when I was telling Dr. Cornwall and in our audience last time about author highlighting, authorship. We've got, there's an article on searchengineland.com that talks about tests showing a 30% increase in organic traffic because they were using rich snippets microdata, which is related to rich snippets. There's another website, catalystsearchmarketing.com, well known within our industry, that showed a case study that they had been through where click rates had actually increased by over 150% by including rich snippets, which authorship is a part of. And then there was a great article. On SEOmoz.org that somebody had actually tested different pictures of himself, different headshots, and he came up with the best background, smile, hairstyle, glasses, no glasses, facial hair, no facial hair. And he came up with, for what he was doing, he was able to increase his click-through rate and his traffic from Google by 35% by focusing on this thing called authorship, or rich snippets, or author highlighting. So let's talk a little bit about what this thing is. So how many of you guys have been on Google and you've seen a picture like this on the search engine results page? If I say SERP or SERPs tonight, that means search engine results page, the listing of Google here. And you see this more and more these days, but a lot of times there are no listings like this. A little background. When Google first started, you really only saw just text listings on the results pages like this. A text headline, a little text snippet that would point to the web address, and then underneath a line or two or three of text. Oftentimes that's the meta description that's getting pulled in from the web page. Sometimes Google is automatically generating that blurb of text. Google refers to that as the snippet. And so what we would call these are just the plain old boring text snippets. As opposed to a rich snippet, you might want to call them poor because you don't get anything extra out of it. In 2009, Google started introducing what they referred to as the rich snippet. It started out with just stars for reviews. You guys have seen stars and reviews next to the search engine result listings. They have started putting in a lot of other opportunities for rich snippets, additional information. You see them with album lyrics. You can see them with people that will actually show up their address and phone number if you're doing a particular type of person search. You will see additional information related to businesses and organizations. You might see ratings and reviews, stars, as well as a picture for a recipe. You can also have these different types of things with products. If you have an e-commerce site, you can actually do a feed directly to Google. It also takes into consideration if it can recognize that there are events on your page, a listing of events. Google can return rich snippets with events. And then the biggest one that we're talking about tonight is authorship. And so last month, after we had recommended that Dr. Jeff Cornwall implement the author highlighting, the authorship code, you can see that you search for Belmont entrepreneurs, and he doesn't rank #1, but then at the same time, he's not Belmont. And so in a way, he probably shouldn't rank #1. Google's doing a pretty good job of what they're showing up here, but what we have done is we have differentiated. This one stands out because that author profile is there. A couple other examples. Sean didn't make it tonight. Sean's one of our regular attendees here at the Nashville SEO Group, and he runs HydroPro pressure washing, and you can see that he has properly implemented authorship, author highlighting here, and that's also in conjunction with the local search results that are showing up right here. So he's got a very nice listing. That's a paid listing above him. He is the first free listing, and it very much stands out compared to everything else that's on the page. Here is a somewhat rare example because you almost never see where there are two different types of rich snippets combined. If you search for the Nashville SEO Group, which is a very specific search, but Google will return meetup.com, but you'll notice that I've got the author highlighting, and then Google is pulling from the meetup.com page tonight's event as well as the next two coming up. So we've got a very nice listing there when somebody's searching for something for that's specific, and the page with the rich snippets has been able to give Google some extra information to display. So let's talk about why you would have rich snippets if it's not obvious enough. First thing, I hope you see this, it really stands out compared to the poor snippets, compared to the plain old text snippets. The next thing that it can do for you is it really adds some credibility there. Think about that people see your face. It's not just necessarily an anonymous listing there. It's not just an anonymous page on the website. You're claiming authorship of that. So there's some additional credibility that you've built by putting your actual picture there. Another thing, you're taking up more space on the page. there's not as much room for other results for people to see if your listing is a little larger. And when you've got the author highlighting, it's pushing everybody else down. You're taking 30 to 60% more space on the page. So that's a great thing for you. It's an opportunity to brand yourself. Hopefully you guys have seen my picture smiling back at you when you've been Googling around Nashville, especially if we're connected on Google+. It can also, all these things together, if you've done it properly, it absolutely can lead to an increased click-through rate. Now, I'll give you an example here at the same time, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an increased click-through rate. If you have a professional website, you're an attorney. If the headshot of you looks nice and professional, it's probably going to help increase your click-through rate. On the other hand, if it's a Facebook picture from when you were 19 years old and you were underage drinking, it's probably not going to help your click-through rate except for curiosity seekers, okay? So just be mindful of the type of image that you want to present. It's a great opportunity, but use the right type of image and it should lead to increased click-through rates. The other thing that's relatively new, and there's a well-known SEO by the name of AJ Cohn that runs blind5yearold.com. That he has started documenting what's been referred to as the authorship bounce bonus. How many of you guys know what bounce rate is on a website? Okay, so if you don't know what bounce rate is, the concept is somebody searches for something on Google, they click on your listing and they go to your web page. If they come right back to Google, to that same search engine results listing page, without going to any other pages on your website, we refer to that as a bounce. They went to one page on your website and they bounced back. They might have been there a while, a short period of time or a long period of time. If they were there a short period of time and they bounced back, that is generally considered they didn't find what they were looking for, or they found something very low quality. On the other hand, if they went to your website, and even if they stayed on that one page, but they were there a fair amount of time, and then they go back to Google, what AJ has identified is that Google is actually providing more links to content from that particular author. The idea behind this is that the searcher is very satisfied with the results that they're finding, and so Google is rewarding the author by then when they come back to the same page on Google, there's more links to that particular author. And this is something that's relatively new, but it's a way to take advantage of this. So let's dig a little deeper into authorship. And so you can see we've got a search rank down here of number 3 for an authorship search. If we click on that, let's see what happens, and let's talk about how to get your picture to show up on Google. So here's the page that we land on. This is my blog post. It's about our meeting and our topic tonight, how to make your picture appear in Google search. There are actually 3 pages, 3 links that are involved, and this is the primary way. There's a couple of other ways that you can make the picture show up, but this is the primary way that most people use. There are going to be 3 pages involved, and this is the first of the pages. So this is a blog post. How many of you guys have blogs? Pretty much everybody. If you don't, you probably should. But the first thing that you need to have on this page is you need to have a byline with your name on it. It's good if the name exactly or closely matches your name on other websites out there. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But this is my byline, and that is a link to the author page on my website. And the code for that behind the scenes is very important. There are 3 pages that are linking to each other with the HTML code. And the code is pointing at, that's my author page, tothetopdesign.com/author/admin. Not very creative for my WordPress.
So your name is a link to your own web page?
It is. On my blog, I could potentially have multiple authors on a blog, okay? This links back to, here's all the things that this author has written. And so this is a link from my blog post or a page on my website to the main page for this particular author. And it's important that it has this rel equals author in here. That's part of the key. This is the page it links to. This is the second of the 3 pages that are important for authorship verification. And this is going to be, if you have multiple authors on a blog, this makes a lot of sense. But even if you have you're the only author on your blog, you should go ahead and do this. This is my author page on my blog. This lists everything that this author has written on my blog. I've got a little blurb of information about me up top here, and then you'll notice right here, I've got a link to Google+. And this is the second of the 3 links that needs to happen. And it links to my Google Plus profile, and it's got the question mark equals rel author appended at the end. This piece right here, we just cut and pasted that from Google Plus profile. And then we appended the question mark rel equals author on the end. And then we also put this little bit of code in here that identifies, hey, this link that we're pointing to, that's me. And that points to my Google Plus page. So this is the second of the 3 pages. We're linking from the blog post page to the author page for the blog that identifies the author. And then the 3rd page is my Google Plus profile page. And you have to have all 3 for the most typical way to implement the picture on Google. You have to have all 3 of these pages, and I'll show you a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes right here. Jake, did you have a question?
Your author page, does that supplant your About Us page then?
If there's only one person that's running your blog, it could very well be the exact same thing. It depends upon how you set up your blog and or your website. But the author page needs to be about a single individual, not about multiple individuals and not about a company. Because my company is To The Top Design. Even if I'm the only publisher there, even if I'm the only author on tothetopdesign.com, Google separates out Ross Jones as an individual, and this is all about the individual author. And the publisher of that content is To The Top Design, is the company. And this is all about the individual author. Does that help?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so on our Google Plus page, there's a number of things that you have to make sure they work properly. The first thing is this right here. You have to have a headshot. A full-length shot, a group photo will not work. A logo will not work. Google will not display anything except an individual person's headshot when they show this picture in the search engine results pages. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, sir.
Does it have to be dead on or like side shot? Caricature?
Feel free to try whatever, and if it doesn't work, you want to be as straight as possible, is what I would suggest. So the first thing is it needs to be a headshot, not a logo, not a group picture or anything like that. The second part is making sure that you have the right link. This is going to be the 3rd page where we have a link, and it's basically a loop to verify Ross Jones is the author of that post that showed up on Google. Here's information about Ross Jones, and Ross Jones is that same guy that has this Google Plus page. Down here at the bottom of your Google Plus page, on the About tab of your Google Plus page, there's a place for links. And there are other profiles where you would list like a Twitter profile, your Meetup profile, and Google tries to understand that these are me. You remember a minute ago I showed you that I had a authorship, author highlighting next to a meetup.com page? Google's pulling it because of the relationship here. But primarily what you need to focus on, if you want your website to show up with the picture on Google, is this section down here. It's the contributor to. You need to list your website, and you need to list it a specific way. Let's dive into, if we click on to edit the contributor to section, you're going to get this. And I've already got a few websites that I've set up. You're going to click down here where it says add a custom link, and it's going to give you 2 blank fields. Don't get confused on this. Make sure you put the right thing in each one of these fields. The first one is pre-populated. It says we expect your label there, and that's just the name of your site. To the Top Design, Meetup. The name of your website goes there. The second field down here is where you put the http:// to the topdesign.com/. Does that make sense? If you mess those up, it won't work. Scott?
Would you want to put your blog link or just your main website? So
The,
to the top?
the main top level domain, just the .com, the .net, the .whatever. Put essentially the home page of whatever website, and then Google will understand because of all these other reciprocal links that you've got going around that you have verified. And hey, if there's stuff anywhere on that domain that you're the author on, then Google understands that, or hopefully understands that. Kim?
If that's the case, then your REL author information, can that be on any page then, or it has to be on your author page?
There are a number of variations that you can get into, and that's actually one of the things that's difficult, that has been difficult. This has been around for over a year. I think around June of 2011 is when Google initially rolled this out. So this has been around almost a year and a half now. And in the Nashville community, I'm kind of surprised I don't see that many more of the authorship highlight. It absolutely is still confusing. It's a lot better than it was. It's a lot better than it was. And so in the beginning, I remember that when I first tried to get it implemented, I was tearing my hair out left and right, and it didn't work, and I couldn't understand why. And it took quite a bit of to do in order to get the picture to show up. And so there are a number of different ways that this can work. What I'm trying to give you guys tonight is as close to as easy as possible and as surefire as possible that you do this and it'll work.
Can a link to your blog on your web page suffice rather than an author page on your website?
You can have this verification process work without an author page on your blog. It is not going to be as surefire, and it's not going to be as easy to do. But there are absolutely some other methods that I'm sharing with you tonight, but they can be significantly more complicated than what we're talking about tonight. So I'm trying to go through this one most common example. I'm going to show you some tools here in a minute for troubleshooting, and if it doesn't work that first time.
As far as when you're talking about the author page and the title page, should you be listing it as an author page or as your name?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If you create a new page for the authorship,
right,
in that title page.
As opposed to an About Us page or something like that?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Yeah, what do you call it? About Us or your name?
No,
or
it doesn't need to. I mean, I would certainly put your name prominent in there so that Google's got a number of different signals. This has not been a perfect tool with Google, or at least it has been a very confusing tool for a lot of people that do this type stuff on a regular basis. They have finally gotten it to the point where I think I can explain at least the basic concepts in 45 minutes, if not all of the details. It does not look like as if it has to be an official author page, but if you have a blog, that's absolutely what I would do. If you have a blog, your blog probably has a format built in for author pages, and that's where I would run that through. Now, one of the issues that you can run into here, how many of you guys use WordPress? I do too. WordPress, is this what you're doing?
Yeah, there's plugins in WordPress that do authorship for you, that will set up the pages for you on each of your blog articles and point to author pages, so you can set up your author profiles, and that can automatically set it up. There's one by Yoast, Y-O-A-S-T, and there's a couple of others as well.
Right, and there is a big problem with WordPress. Okay, WordPress by default. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Sorry. WordPress by default strips out a bunch of stuff like this. And Google's, is it still their current recommendation, is to use that plugin that allows you to put those things in the author?
The current recommendation is to use the plugin. In December 5th, WordPress is going to update to the new kernel, and that will solve the problem.
Great.
But until then, and even past then, it's really helpful just to use a plugin to set up authorship, so you don't have to worry about creating special pages, like, you can pull up your own author page.
How many of you guys are on a blog where there are multiple authors on the blog? Okay. It can be more difficult for you if you have a blog with multiple authors. With WordPress's with their default function that they, you know how you've got a user profile in WordPress. Sure would be nice if you could just put not only the web address but append the rel author in there. WordPress automatically strips that out by default. There is a plugin that Google recommends that will fix that. The problem is that, and that's fine if you have 2 trusted authors on a blog, or 3 or 5, or a small number of trusted authors on a blog. The problem is that if you have a lot of authors, it gives rights to put in any HTML code can be injected into the website. And so if you have a large number of people posting on a blog, and not all of them are trusted, there is the potential for security issues. And so, sorry, and like Jeremy said, hopefully when the next, did you say in December?
December 5th.
Oh, so right around the corner. If you update to the new core of WordPress, that'll take care of the whole issue we have.
Yeah.
Great. Jake?
How do you think they treat podcast and or video cast versus a blog? Because a podcast could be a blog and post it. You've got show notes typically, but I've got a co-host.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm typically an author.
Jeremy, did you look at multiple authors?
I've seen markup for PDFs and I've seen markup for video. I'm not sure if there's markup that comes along with posting podcasts, but if you're posting your individual blog post and you're marked as the author and you've got authorship set up, then that blog post itself should trigger a rich snippet. You may want to look up schema.org or schema-creator.org to see if there's a specific set of markups just for a podcast that might give you a better chance of getting it done.
And Jake, were you specifically asking about, you've got multiple hosts on the podcast?
Me and another fellow.
Okay, and so right now,
Since I'm producing it, my name does show up as the author, but I didn't know how they treat it.
right now, as far as I know, Google will only support one author.
One author per article.
Right, one author per article. And in this case where you're creating a podcast, but the podcast lives on a page or a post on your website, Google kind of treats that as normal author highlighting authorship for a page or a post.
That's what I mean.
Yep. And so at some point in time, maybe they'll have some support for multiple authors, but not yet. Yes,
Where does it find the picture?
From your Google
it
Plus
finds it
page.
right there. It finds it right there from your Google Plus page. So there are 3 pages involved, 3 links that are coming around for the most straightforward way to have your picture show up in the search
Google
results.
Plus is relevant for something.
Hello. and I'll tell you
On the 8 ball.
that's a great comment. A lot of people, the big knock on Google Plus is nobody uses it. But guess what? Google uses it. And there's a few people that still use Google. So this is an opportunity for you to separate yourself.
You may have addressed this. I'm a little confused. On your author page, is that your home page or index page? Or
No. Okay, so I'll back up here. All right, so there's 3 pages involved with this. The first is the post that I want to have show up on Google. I want this page to rank for something. It's a post on my blog, or it could be just a page on a website. It doesn't have to be a blog post. In this situation, however, which is the easiest to explain of everything, I've got the byline here. This was written by Ross Jones. And my name is linked because there might be multiple people posting on this website, on this blog. This links to another page that's on this same website, which is the author page. And this is essentially all of the posts that are written by this author.
Gotcha.
If you're the only author, if you're the only person writing stuff on your website, it can very well be your homepage. If you've got a blog, your blog has a built-in format to have an author page. Go ahead and use that, because that's the most surefire opportunity for you to get this to work, because it still is not as foolproof as I'm sure Google would like it to be, but it's getting to be much more straightforward. And so our third page here, we've got our Google Plus page. Make sure you've got your headshot. You click into the Contributor To section. Make sure you put the name of your website here, and then the URL is the actual web address of your website where you have a contributor to. You'll get to this by clicking the words here, Add Custom Link. Make sure that this setting says public right here. It probably says it by default. And then click to save. I've got one other thing on your Google Plus page that you need to make sure to do. It may very well be clicked by default, but double check this. Just above where your profiles and your contributor to links are, there's an option for profile discovery. And make sure that you have a checkbox where it says, help people find my profile when they search. If you do not have this checked, Google will not show your picture in the search results. Easy, right? All right, so here's a little more help. If you do everything right, hopefully we're going to end up like this. All right?
Did you customize your about page on Google Plus? Your photograph is big and on the right with a big.
No. I've filled in all the information, but just with my profile page. Savannah?
Sure. Where do we get the URLs? You know, the URLs that you showed us in step 1 and 2, the specific.
Up in the top here.
Yeah, that.
And I cut it off. Up in your browser bar that would show up above here.
Yep.
You just cut and paste from there. You just up here in your top browser bar is where it's probably going to say http://www.something.com.
Right.
And you're just going to cut and paste from up here.
And then add the rel author
and the rel author and the rel me. The tools that Google has, however, to help you make sure this, they do have a number of things that they can do to help you. So let me get back there.
But we don't have to do any of that if we've got a
You still need to take the steps to.
Right.
You still need to take the steps to.
The question was, so do we have to do anything if WordPress is going to fix all this stuff in December? Right. That's the theory. We are told that very soon there is going to be a WordPress update that will make this easier. Okay, but it's still going to be the process of you've got to have this verification between the 3 pages that Google's talking about. The page where you have the information posted that you want to rank well, some type of about me or author page on your website, and then also over here on your Google Plus profile, you must have the Google Plus profile set up properly. All right, so the first thing that Google makes available to you to say, hey, is this working? Because let me tell you this, if you do everything perfectly and you go search for something, you will not show up, because Google will not know you have done this for a little while until they get around to crawling, to spidering your web page and updating their index. That might take a half an hour if you have an extremely popular authoritative website that Google checks all the frickin' time, or if you have what Google considers to be an extremely unauthoritative website or a stagnant website, it may take months for Google to figure out you have done this. So you have to wait until Google has spidered and seen that you have made these changes. But they have a rich snippets testing tool at Google that you can plug in the web address of the page in question, and it will show you whether it's going to work or not. And so I plugged in the web address of that particular page, and Google says, here's what it's probably going to look like. Here's a preview of this. It says that the author is verified. It shows that I've got a linked author profile, and it's also got my Google profile there. It's got the author name correctly, and it's got a linked author profile within the website. And so the rich snippet testing tool says, looks like everything's good. This is the first place you go as soon as you have placed all these reciprocal links to try to make your picture show up. I'm sorry? No, this is a public page. It's called the Rich Snippet, they changed the name a little bit, but search
Structured data.
Rich Snippet Testing Tool.
Structured data testing.
Up here, it's the full web address.
From your post.
From my post. The page that I want to show up with my picture next to it on Google, the page that I want to rank well and have my picture next to it, I've grabbed the full web address of it and posted it in here. Scott?
Is it possible to put like a home page to appear with a rich snippet author tag, or can it only be like a blog, like a post?
You can do a home page. I've done that with my website on a home page because for the most part I'm the only author posting on my website.
If you use the well author tag on your home page,
You can.
that
You-
you have to.
I'm sorry?
You have to, because that kind of hurts the design if they say buy.
You can have a little G+ logo or something down in a corner with it with your social media profile, with your social media icons. But yes, you can absolutely do this with your homepage too. You run into a problem, however, if the website represents a number of different people, because this is not for having a publisher or a group shot of people. This has to be related. This has to be related to one person, an individual author. And so if you're a law firm with, 5 partners and, 15 associates, either pick one person or you can't do it, at least the way it stands today. Maybe at some point in time, Google will be doing publisher highlighting, but they're not today. It is author, individual person highlighting. Okay? And so the Rich Snippet Testing Tool is the first bit. Jason?
I'm sorry I'm diving in so much. You've got 81 sites. Let's say 15 of those are points that you're active on. Are you referencing the same tag for each individual business that you've got set up? Or are you setting up individual authorships for each one of those?
This is an individual person, okay? Google is relating this to an individual person. The whole concept here is that Ross Jones as an individual is an expert in this topic, and maybe in this topic, and maybe in this topic. And so Google is trying to identify content that is on the internet with an individual person. The answer is for any website, for any piece of content that you have on the internet, regardless of which website, you can do this. Every one of them has to point to your personal individual Google Plus profile. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
I noticed yours has 2 to top on it. And
Right.
I can imagine that all your websites have to do with marketing and SEO.
No, they don't. And some of,
So
and
your little snippet will show up as 2 to the top, even though it's for like potato chips or whatever.
you mean my picture?
Yeah.
Right.
You mean my picture because I branded my picture with my logo there? Yeah, that's my headshot. If I have decided to implement authorship on any other website, that's the picture that'll show up.
Right.
Now, I may choose to not implement authorship. At the same time, Google's trying to get better and better at just figuring it out. Don't be surprised if at some point in the future, you don't have to do any of this, and Google just knows, hey, that website that I built 11 years ago and I haven't touched since then, and I'm not very proud of it, don't be surprised if Google figures out Ross Jones was the author of that and starts showing my picture next to that. And that might be good or it might be bad.
Can it hurt you if you have 2 or more, if you have more than one Google Plus?
You don't want to have more than one Google Plus profile for an individual. You're skating on thin ice if you have more than one Google Plus profile as an individual.
Okay, what if you have the profile and then you have your pages for the companies or anything like
You
that?
can absolutely have pages for companies.
Okay, but you can't use the pages for
No,
your...
because those are publishers. This is all about one individual person. It's who wrote that? Ross Jones wrote that. Let's keep moving on through here because I've got another couple of pieces on here. Use the Rich Snippet Testing Tool first. Google also, just in October of this year, they updated their Rich Snippet guidelines, so there's a wealth of information about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. This is another area where you can figure out, well, I thought I put everything right, well, but your page content doesn't fit their guidelines. For some reason, they're not going to show it. Google also has a dedicated page for if your author information is not appearing. That they've got Again, a lot of information here. And then finally, they even have a contact form.
No way.
How many of you guys have been dealing with Google for more than about 5 years or so? This is ridiculous to us who have been dealing with Google for a while, because as recently as a few years ago, you couldn't contact a person at Google. I mean, it just didn't work that way. And so, and so there really is a contact. You've tried all these other things and you still can't make it work. They've given us a contact form. Now they say they might not necessarily reply directly. But this is amazing to me. So they've got a number of different tools that you can provide. Hey, how many of you guys know what this picture is? You don't have to read it. Just, how many of you guys know what this picture is?
An infographic.
No, I mean what this represents. Okay, so how many hands do I see? About 20% of the people in the room know what this picture is. Okay, so this is, how many of you guys know who Matt Cutts is? All right, so a few more. So this was the original infographic that Google, Matt Cutts et al. Shared with us. How many of you guys have heard of PageRank? Okay. How many of you guys think that is named that way because that's where your page ranks? That's not it. That's not it. PageRank is named PageRank because the primary guy that created it, his last name is Page, Larry Page. He's one of the 2 founders of Google. It is confusing. It is confusing to people because it does focus on pages, but it is absolutely not where your page ranks. It's got it's focused on how authoritative an individual page or document is, and it's also focused on how authoritative your actual website is at the same time. This, let me back up. Did you see my headline? PageRank is why Google is worth a gazillion dollars, because this was a tremendous paradigm shift when they came up with this concept in the mid-90s. Completely different way for search engines to work, and it worked. And that's why they are huge today. They have always, this is not as important as it was in the beginning, but it's still a core component of how Google works. And the focus, up till just recently, has really been on how authoritative your pages are and how authoritative your website is. Google has something new to us. It's been around for a little while in the patents, but it's called author rank. And this is a paradigm shift. They are no longer just saying your page has a certain amount of authority, your website has a certain amount of authority. They are absolutely moving to try to incorporate Ross Jones as an individual has authority, whether I am on this website, or whether I am on this website, or whether I'm on that website. And I also have authority within certain topical areas. Maybe Google can understand I am an expert on internet marketing SEO. Maybe Google can also understand I'm an expert on the American flag. But if I wrote an article about the flu, because I think my boy's got the flu tonight, is Google going to consider me an expert on the flu? No, they shouldn't. Unless I have created a wealth of quality content that Google has somehow realized is authoritative for that particular topic. This is a big shift, and it looks like it's only going to be continuing to move in this direction. PageRank is not going away. The concept of you need to get links to your website, you need other websites linking to you that are authoritative and relevant to your website, you're going to have to continue to do this. This is just one more potentially huge factor that is going to come into play with Google. Because you are here tonight and you are being exposed to the concepts, even if you've never heard of all this stuff before, you are ahead of the game. Start trying to implement this on your website, and if you ever guest post or anything like that, you should be doing it. You should be doing that as well.